as marketers, we know that we can basically manipulate anyone into doing anything.
You better not, but you can. Yes, you can.
You can.
Politics has been doing it for years and years and years. But so is your mother. We manipulate each other all the time.
Welcome to the Guerrilla Lab Podcast. Today, I'm joined with Ron Lynch, and he's on a quest to serve the world one human at a time, putting food on families' tables and recently launching a project to disrupt the way that education has been approached for centuries. So he's making it available for everyone, no matter where you're in the world. So before we get started into how to serve the world with ethical leadership, I believe it's important to mention how Ron has helped GoPro go from $600,000 to $650 million. You got your first patent when you were in college, right? And
Yep.
You got into a grocery store, the grocery store business, you had a job, became chief operating officer in that grocery chain. And all that makes of you being an inventor and into like film directing and being an actor, it all made something that was the perfect storm for infomercials.
Right.
You've probably heard of Ron's clients, Samsung, OxyClean, Johnson & Johnson. And from the last news that I got, Ron sold over $6 billion over his years in marketing. Ron, welcome to the Guerrilla Lab.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here at Guerrilla Lab with you, my friend. And my grad student. You're a Mercenary grad student as well. So congrats on that.
Let's talk about it. The way that we know each other is through different people. Okay, I went through like Kyrie, and then I found out that Kyrie endorsed Ron Lynch, and I was like, okay, who is this man that everyone's kind of working with? So I looked into it, and it turns out that Ron has an elite program for marketers that's basically breeding marketers. How did you get into helping people with marketing?
So for me, the genesis of teaching that course was being involved in online marketing. I had never been involved that deeply in online marketing. I'd always marketed either directly to consumers through a grocery store environment, and then I moved right into the film environment of marketing on TV and television commercials. So that leaked into the internet. We certainly supported and sold products on the internet from television, but I had never really specifically made content for the internet until probably 2010 or 2011, maybe 2012. And I was introduced in the infomercial world to Drew Canoli. We were doing a juicing infomercial for a juicer that my former partner owned, and he introduced me to Brad Costanzo. And as you know, the dominoes fall, he introduced me to a guy named David Gonzalez in Austin, and David and I hit it off. And David really introduced me to all these marketers in the online marketing world. And I just started producing my own, I'll say, teaching content online and things observations. It's mostly observational stuff online. And that started to kind of draw more and more people. And I was watching internet marketers, and so many people were blatantly lying about their success. And it was obvious to me because I'm old enough, I know when I'm being lied to. And people were giving horrible advice and information that was patently false. And I thought, you guys are a bunch of monkeys. You are a bunch of liars. And you don't know what you're talking about, and you don't know marketing. All you're trying to do is to get pennies from other people. You're literally trying to steal from people. And you think that business is taking money from other people. And that fundamentally got me to the questions, got me to examine where I came from and what I really believed, because I wanted to protest what I was seeing, but you can't protest if you don't have a position to articulate. And so I had to dive back into kind of my thinking of where I came from, how I got there, what I knew to be ethical. And when we come to that number of $6 billion in revenue, I actually don't know if that's correct anymore. It might be north of that. But because we stopped counting a while ago, the thing to know about those transactions is that they're transactions. It's not like I'm taking credit for the bandwidth of all of the sales of OxyClean, or the bandwidth of all of the sales of GoPro, or all of the sales of Samsung robotic vacuum cleaners. I'm taking credit for commercial content that I produced and the funnels that were created and specific register rings that occurred based on my work. So it's not like they've done way more than $6 billion. When you add up all these companies, they've done well over $100 billion. I have a fractional percent, 5 or 6% of the initial revenue that are associated with those products. So I felt like I was in a pretty fair place to speak, because most people hadn't really sold the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they were like, I've sold $1 million online. I'm like, I've done that over a weekend before. So it was offensive to me that people were making these claims and saying these things that were just incorrect. And I got mad, and I made a Facebook post, and I said, it was a very long rant. And I said, look, I could teach you guys how to do this correctly and ethically if you'd be willing. And 70 people responded and said, we'd be willing. And so I taught the first marketing mercenary course, not knowing what the curriculum was going to be. And I didn't know how long the course was going to be, but I said, I'll send you an email every Sunday and I'll give you homework. And it turned out to be exactly as long as a college course, 13 weeks. And every week I knew what to teach based upon the responses I got from people the week prior. I learned what people didn't know. And so I really walked in the stepping stone fashion of revealing to them the basics of, first of all, what money is, where it comes from, how to identify good products, how to organize your thinking into a creative and strategic brief, so that not only could you sell, but as a company owner, you could give this brief to other people and they could sell. And typically before I did this, creative briefs in companies were 2 pages long. And now we've initiated a process where they're 30 and 40 pages. And it's really a sales Bible it's something you wouldn't hesitate to hand to a customer, actually. It's all the information you need from customer to customer service, to your television advertiser, to your content writers, to CEO level. This is who we are. This is what we sell. This is who we help. This is why. Here's all of the benefits. Here's all of the features. And it gives you this arsenal of strategic information to approach the marketplace, because you have a multiplicity of customers. And that's one of the things that people inside internet marketing don't realize, is they find a hook and a customer and they dive deep into that vein. And what they're missing is the 4 or 5 other customers that want a different array of their benefits, because most people can only hold, as a consumer, 3 benefits in their head that they want, that they're really passionate, that they need. But you might provide 12 benefits. And if you don't sell the right 3 to the right audience, you're missing an entire audience. And so that's how we grow these brands and really teach people that your idea or your product can become a multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar brand by going very specific, very wide, and very personal in your communication style to the consumer.
Okay. So there are a lot of companies. Well, we both know that all companies should have a creative brief, but there are companies that are structured in a way where the CEO has the first and last word. So they don't really have the insight from the customers or from their front end, like their employees. How do you see this structure working out in corporations that they say, hey, I don't need a creative brief. I already have been doing this marketing for like 20 years and the company's been working. Why would I need this creative brief? And how is a CEO getting in the way of their own company's growth?
Well, I think part of that is being very honest with people and saying, you're right, you have succeeded, you've done a great job, and you're missing 80% of the revenue that you could have. And if you don't believe me, don't believe me. I'll go on to the next person. But I have enough statistical data and proof behind me. We went into a company last year called Circle, and Circle sells a water bottle that has a cartridge on top, and I love the product. And the cartridge flavors the water. So you draw the water through the cartridge as you drink it. The cartridge comes in, 50, 60 flavors. And they were selling it under 4 or 5 different brand names. And I said, let me come in and address this with you. And they were really smart guys, young guys from Duke University that had put this product together. And I think we spent 2 or 3 days together, and we killed all of the brands but one and focused their message on the water, which seemed counterintuitive because they were selling the flavorings in the bottles. And my argument to them was, the problem with selling the flavors is you've got coffee flavors and Gatorade knockoff flavors and fitness flavors. You have all these teas, you have a zillion flavors. So if you get into the flavor war, suddenly you're going to be fighting Nestea and Gatorade and Kool-Aid and all of the other aids. Like, you're going to be fighting everybody, and they're going to crush you. You're not going to have enough money to outmarket them. So tell the consumer something that tap into a belief that they already have, that everything that they buy in the world is just water with a bunch of stuff added to it. And everybody knows they have to drink more water, and they don't like water. It's boring. So we created a moniker for them, which they use to this day, which is, finally, water is your favorite beverage. And they put it on all their advertising, and the value of the company went from, I think, $200 million to over $1 billion in a year. And they were able to expand all of their advertising by putting the right point on that spear. And then people, once they hear water, finally, water is your favorite beverage, that opens a loop in their mind, and they say, what does that mean? They discover what it means. Then they go, but do they have this flavor? And they opt into their own flavor profile that they love. And of course, they find it there. So I can talk to a CEO, but I can't make a CEO listen. And the point is, we've proven hundreds of times that this methodology works. George Foreman Grill was sold on not the grill, it's sold on the food. It's a panini grill. I mean, it was originally made as a taco maker, where the grease dripped out and you scrape the taco meat out of it. And Rick Cesare was brilliant at seeing the very clear, simple truth of a product. Was like, well, yeah, but you can cook a sandwich in that, you can cook fish in it, and you can cook chicken in it. It was like, oh, right in the era when people were trying to lower their fat. Now people are trying to eat more fat, but back in those days, it was all about cutting out the fat. And so it was sold on a variety of foods to a variety of audiences. And the company thought at the time that they were going to sell this to moms to make dinner faster. And it turned out it was all apartment dwellers, singles, and senior people that really were the core audience. It was people that didn't want to do dishes. And wanted stuff fast. So it's, you don't always know as a CEO what you're doing. And to assume that you do, you're not a very good CEO.
Okay, so if you cannot assume that you know what you're doing, let's talk about a concept that you've brought to light in my mind, is like the pinball machine. Okay, so the pinball machine, I'll let you explain what that is and
sure,
what's the opposite of the pinball machine.
Well, let's start with the opposite. The opposite is what everybody does. They invent a product, create a product, start a business, and you see a lot of people calling themselves CEOs. I'm the CEO of this. Oh, really? How long has the company been around? 3 weeks, and I'm the CEO. CEO is a job function. And if you don't have employees, you're not a CEO. You're the president, maybe, but you're not the CEO. You're just crowning yourself something to sound important on a business card or at a meeting. And as companies grow, we have this idea of a pyramid structure. I'm the king, and people serve me, and they're below me. So below me in the C-suite is the COO, the CFO, the CMO, and below them is the vice president of this and that. And below them are the sales managers and the salespeople and the graphics department. And below them are blah, blah, blah. And below them is customer service. And way down at the bottom are these customers. And we're this vacuum cleaner shaped triangle, and I'm the king of the triangle. And we're going to go out there and we're going to suck up all of that, all the customers off of the earth. And that's dumb. Because if that is the truth, you can never get out of your role as the king, and it's simply your identity that you're codifying. It's not the actual practice of a business. To be successful in business, you need to be able to walk away from it. The business is a business, and your life is your life. The people who become pyramid leaders have terrible family lives, higher incidences of heart attacks, alcoholism, all of the negatives in life. The king gets corrupted. So I prefer to look at it as a pinball machine. And the thing at the top that comes in is the customers. And hopefully that spring that launches them in is some type of messaging and marketing that got their attention. And they come into the machine and they're like, what the heck is this? And they start to get bounced around. So at the top, you really have the initiation is some form of marketing or conversation or a referral from another customer, which is our ideal. And then you have customer service people or websites at the top, things that engage them, get the ball moving. Then underneath that, you have maybe a customer service agent to solve a problem for them, or more marketing material to help them understand it, or the directions of how to use your product. And as you get lower and lower, there's all of these things that are frankly defending the ball from ever dropping out of the machine and leaving. So now if you look at it this way, as an inverted pyramid, as a CEO, as a boss, as a department head, you are two flippers. And hopefully you've empowered everybody above you and given all the information you need for a ball to never reach you. Those are great companies. And then the CEO can think about creative ideas with the marketing director and the COO and the CFO of how to pay for them and expand them to bring more expansion, more pinball machines to the arcade. But your main two functions should be, one flipper is financial. I have the bandwidth and the authority to make financial decisions that people above me can't make. The other flipper is, I have the policy button. I can make policy decisions that the people above me don't feel comfortable to make. And those are the only two things you really should have to do as a CEO, is make policy decisions and make financial decisions. The personnel decisions should actually be made by the people that are at these bumpers above, the department heads and the CFO and the CMO. These are these bumpers ahead of you. So if you are that, then ultimately you're the ultimate support to your customer, to your product, and you're serving the company. But the machine is actually operating in such a fashion that it can be sold, it can be duplicated, or you can walk away from it. So when I go into a company, that's why I'm a fractional person in a lot of companies, is I never get put on the org chart because I never want to be on the org chart. I never want to be in the machine. I want to be a machine designer to help you in your business build all of the mechanisms to make sure that your machine works as efficiently as it possibly can. It gets the most balls in through the marketing plunger, and everybody is dealt with in such a fashion that they have incredible satisfaction. And the marketing flipper doesn't actually have to work that hard because the people are so thrilled. They bring their friends, their family, their associates. They wear the GoPro camera on their helmet, and everybody in the ski resort sees it. They put their footage online on Facebook and YouTube, and everybody recognizes the anamorphic shape as being GoPro footage. And they're like, I got to get one of those GoPro cameras. That's kind of how in my mind, that's how a company should function.
Okay. How, as the person that leverages those two levers, how do you make sure that the company goes in the way that you want it to go if you're only at the bottom?
You're in a support role. So where are you getting your information? From watching the ball in the machine, by watching the customer path, watching how they integrate with the departments. It's awareness. You become less aware of your Ferrari and more aware of your customers, their experience, and the product themselves. And I've seen in very large corporations, and I'm not going to name any because this is a problem, is they start to anchor themselves on the product, and our product's so perfect, our customers are so dumb they're using it wrong. No, customers aren't dumb and using it wrong. You've got a design problem or an instructional problem or a quality problem. You have to get better, and you have to see that, and you have to make your product better. You don't get to blame the customers for your failures.
Okay. So when you talk about the product, there are some key points that you look for when you're looking to maybe invest or help a company with their products or their pinball machine. What are those criteria that you're looking for, and why are they so important?
Well, what you want is a problem that's endemic. You want a problem that multiple people have. So that means you have something to solve. So you're really looking for a problem in the world. Here's the problem. And then you come to the solution. You come to the Da Vinci has 40 ways to solve this problem. Which one of those fits this problem? This is how we solve the problem. So now you have innovation. You have endemic problem, you have innovation. So because the problem's endemic, that means you also have an audience or subdividable audiences. You have a population that needs this solution. You now have an innovation. You now have a solution. You now have an audience. Now you go, okay, what are the features and benefits of that? Can we produce it? Can we produce it at such a price and present such a value that there's margin, that someone's willing to pay $500 for this and it costs us $100 to make it? So we have $400 to play with to fund the inventory, to fund the factory, to fund the marketing, to fund the accountants, to all of it. And you want to have those kind of margins when you start out, because if you're starting out selling direct to a consumer, sooner or later, you're going to sell at retail, and the amount of retail dollars you collect is going to be cut in half. 50% is going to go to the retailer for the most part of the distribution chain. So you have to have margin. So it's innovation, audience, and margin. Now what's left? You, as the talent, story. You have to be able to convey the innovation and the problem so powerfully to the audience that they're willing to pay that margin to get that solution right now. And if you do it really well, then you've taught the audience how to sell the product. So your consumer is always your best sales force. So if I teach the consumer how to use the product, they love it. They show a friend, they tell a friend, show and tell happens. I sell a second product for $0 advertising dollars. That happens enough times, then I get distribution, and that's direct consumer distribution. Now I can go to distribution channels like Amazon or retailers or Walmart or Target or Best Buy or whoever it is. And I can say, I'm selling a lot of these. If you sell them at your store, I'll make a commercial that says you can buy them at their store. Now I've cut the amount of money I'm going to collect in half, but I may have 5x, 6x, 10x the distribution. So now I'm in mass market. Now I have the money to advertise and market, now available at Target, Walmart, whatever. And I have a sustainable business, hopefully.
Okay. So when we talk about we have money coming in and we have a sustainable business, a lot of people are going to hear this and they're going to be like, okay, if the goal is to make more money with the margins and get the business more sustainable and growing, like how is it really ethical if you're just building a business to make it bigger? Like, where do ethics come in there, and how do you make sure that, hey, what you're doing is aligned with what you believe?
What did I start the process with?
The problem?
The problem. So I found a problem in the world and I'm solving it. So that's where the ethics come in. Where else do the ethics come in? Innovation. Is my innovation ethical? We get a lot of these questions right now in the medical community. Where does this medical product come from? Is this an extraction that's coming out of another human being? There's a lot of those types of discussions. So is the product ethical? So is the problem, am I approaching it ethically? Am I approaching the innovation ethically? Then, am I gouging for the price? Martin Shkreli, the guy with the EpiPens that's now in prison, the guy who took EpiPens and made him go from $79 to $1,700 or some ridiculous thing, got thrown in jail because he had control of this industry. His margins were unethical. If you're a drug company, that's one of the challenges of drug companies is they say we need the research dollars to research and do the innovations. Therefore, when we get to market, Viagra is a great example of that. Viagra was a heart medicine. It was meant to vasodilate and lower people's blood pressure. Well, it did vasodilate so well, it was giving people erections. So suddenly it was like, this Viagra is no longer a heart medication, it's a boner pill. And the cost of Viagra, I think, was somewhere in the range of $20 or $30 per pill. Like, it was an expensive thing, I think. And then the patent ran out, and now the price is plummeted, and now everybody and their brother has a generic version of this product for a fraction of that cost. So you look at that. So there's an ethical, okay, am I gouging people? And maybe, I don't know if that was GlaxoSmithKline that owned that, or I can't remember, or, oh, it's Pfizer, I think. Pfizer owned that. Were they justified in charging what they charged during the period of time they had the patent? Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. Then the last piece is story. Are you telling an ethical story? So you have an ethical choice in every step of the way to do what you do. I'm not in charge of your ethics. I have my own opinions about those, obviously, and I try to maintain a certain decorum in one, what I select, what innovation I look at, 2, the audience I want to approach, 3, what margin we charge, and 4, what story I tell, which is why I don't sell Viagra knockoffs. I'm not interested in that product. There's too many other problems in the world to solve. Someone's already got that solved.
Okay. So when we talk about stories, in Marketing Mercenaries, we talk about how to craft a story in a way that people understand and that you convey a message in the way that you want it to be conveyed and understood. How do you craft a story that is creative, strategic, but still true and ethical? Because anyone can create any story, like writing any movie, but is it aligned with what you're doing, and does it make sense with what you're selling?
Yeah, and this is kind of there's a weird dichotomy here, because in the course of teaching this, one of the things I insist is that you be truthful, but I also insist you be truthful to a point. If you're selling something ethical, and you have, let's say you have 3 consumers that have given you testimonials, and they've told you 3 different stories, and you have 60 seconds to tell that story, would it be ethical to combine all 3 of their stories into one fictional character and have all 3 experiences conveyed by the one fictional character in order to suit getting the point across in the time allowed?
I would say yes, but is it true?
I would say yes, but it's not true, but it is true. And does the viewer care more about, oh, the fictional character you picked who had this experience is a story that is a combination of other stories? You don't have time to have that discussion with them. They need the information. They need to solve the problem. I say that's an ethical way to do it. And I'll tell you why. Here's a really very simple one. Who is a great teacher, probably the best teacher ever, who utilized metaphors constantly? First of all great teachers do. Jesus. Jesus spoke through allegories and metaphors constantly to make the point. So I think it's an ethical thing to do. Is Homer's The Iliad true? Is Fitzgerald's Great Gatsby true? Is the Slaughterhouse-Five true? Did they To Kill a Mockingbird, is that true? These are important, cherished stories in our culture. Mark Twain wrote tons of stories. Charles Dickens, tons of. It's Great Expectations true? It certainly makes a point. I don't care if it's true. If it gets to the heart of the matter and it's not manipulating me into doing something that is extracting and stealing.
But you did use the word manipulating. And so
Absolutely.
Okay, so when we talk about marketing and telling a story and conveying a message, as marketers, we know that we can basically manipulate anyone into doing anything.
You better not, but you can. Yes, you can.
You can.
Politics has been doing it for years and years and years. But so is your mother. We manipulate each other all the time. You can even manipulate people by giving them a certain set of facts and leaving out another certain set of facts. And you can say, well, what I told them was true. So am I saying the ends justifies the means? Sometimes it does, I suppose, if the ends are actually ethical and moral. If they're not, probably not.
Okay, so you get to decide what's ethical and not, and you choose what you want to put your knowledge towards.
That's absolutely factual. Yes, we all get to choose what we decide is moral and ethical and how we twist our stories to manipulate each other as human beings. Every single person on earth does that. Anybody who's in control of their faculties does that, and they do it every day, all day. And they'd like to pretend that they don't. Oh, no. That's not what I was trying to say. My intention was, no. Your words were. We know exactly what you were trying to do. So I'm not going to tell you that I'm beyond the pale of being subject to that. I absolutely do that for a living, and I teach other people how to do it for a living. Hey, let's decide what's good, what's ethical, and let's move people in that direction. That's what Intellihelp was. You wanted to talk about that today. So we created this massive campaign in a day. The day COVID started, March 14th, 2020, and the lockdown came. That Saturday, I got on Facebook and I said, there are people in the United States that are currently locked in their houses who cannot go to work, who may not get a paycheck. And half of this country lives paycheck to paycheck. Probably 80% of this country lives paycheck to paycheck. And there are those in the world that have money and are also locked in their houses. You're now in a society that is dangerously close to having a trauma and a real problem. And there are a whole bunch of children locked in those houses with those families. And there's a whole lot of elderly people that can't go out because of what we're telling them is the potential risk of this health hazard. Nobody can go anywhere. People have to wear masks, blah, 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 blah. Do you want your countrymen being hungry? Do you want children being hungry? Would you like to go online? We'll provide a place where a hungry family can say, these are the groceries we need. Or an elderly person can say, I can't make it to the market or to the CVS. This is what I need. And they don't have money, and you will go in and you will meet that person and you will buy. So you know we're not scamming you. You will pay for it. You will arrange to have it delivered, and your heart will feel good because you did something to truly help another human being, and you'll meet the human being and they'll say thank you. As I tell that story, am I manipulating you? 100%. Am I wrong? No, I'll retell it over and over. I don't think I'm wrong. But that's the judgment call. That's where going, hey, I think what I'm doing is ethical and moral. And if you don't agree with it, I don't care. And we all have to make those calls for our own souls. But I try to apply that thinking to everything that I do. Does that make me a sociopath? I don't think so. I think it makes me socially conscious and aware and understanding that I have a practice talent in communications, and I'm utilizing that practice talent for good.
So when you're practicing that talent for good, what are you seeing as the end goal of what you want to do with that talent? Because like you have the experience, you have the proof to back it up, and you know how to do it. So what's the end goal of using this talent to?
Sure. My end goal for using this talent is that people wake up and recognize that there's other people and the other people matter. That they wake up and realize that this magical scientific snow globe, the more science we dig into, the more we find a creator. That you are existing right now in a timeline, in a movie created in God's head. And you have an opportunity to recognize that and surrender and serve and use whatever talents you have and perfect those talents to help serve and help other people recognize that they're in that snow globe and they need to help serve. Which oddly is the same message that Jesus brought. Get people in the boat.
What do you get by serving other people? Like, what's in it for me?
The awareness that you are blessed, the experience of gratitude for being blessed, the opportunity to see other people rewarded from your gifts. That's the ultimate power. The ultimate power is not sucking things from the universe. It's providing things to the universe. Is that something's coming through you and you're broadcasting. And you are a broadcast mechanism. You're a radio that's broadcasting and you're lighting up other people. There's no greater feeling than that. So what's in it for me? That they are. That's all I need. I mean, one of the things that we culturally do is we deny that we're going to die. We have an incredible fear of death. I have no fear of death. None. We have an incredible fear of death. And that incredible fear of death causes us to take our days and divide them into 7. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then we fill a schedule with, on Sunday, I do this. On Monday, I do this. On Tuesday, I do Monday night football, and Tuesday night bunco, and Wednesday night's my jujitsu night. And we create this schedule, and this is where I have lunch, and these are the people I talk to. We create an ecosystem where we repeat and endeavor to repeat the same 7 days over and over and over and over again. And this planet is this amazing arcade, and we're locked in the corner with the 6 drunks and smokers we know, kibitzing about the same 7 days, and then somebody we know dies. And what happens when someone we know dies? What's the first thing that comes out of someone's mouth? Hey, Roy died. What happened to Roy? Well, Roy got killed on his motorcycle. Oh, I don't drive a motorcycle. Oh, I'm going to miss Roy. We're trying to disqualify ourselves from death. The first question we ask is, how did the person die, so that we can disqualify ourselves from that death? And I look at, when I was a young person, I worked for a guy who was a pretty good guy, Dick Rhodes, and he owned a grocery store, and he gave his employees a silver coin as their Christmas bonus every year, 1 ounce silver coin. And when I was young, I didn't like it or appreciate it. I thought he was a cheap bastard because it was like $12 worth of silver or something. I'm like, I worked my ass off all year, and this guy's giving me a $12 coin. But he was an old man, and in his way, he was wise because he was expressing value. And the value would grow over time. He knew that. Well, now that I have a collection of the coins, I worked for the guy for 10 years. I have 10 of them, I think. So but the coins are now worth $25 or $30, whatever they're worth. But at one point, my grandfather bequeathed to my parents, who bequeathed to me a gold coin. And I realized a gold coin, 1 ounce at the time, was worth $1,000. And I realized then that that guy gave me the silver coin. It was worth about what I was making in a day. By the time I deducted the taxes and stuff as a box boy in a grocery store making $25 an hour, by the time you took my benefits out and federal taxes, I was making about $17 in a 5 or 6 hour shift. So I was worth to him. He was giving me a day's wages. And then my grandparents, through my parents, gave me this gold coin, $1,000 a day. Maybe that's what my day was worth. And then I realized I was taking my days in my life like these coins, and I was putting them in 7 piles like everybody else, and I was spending them at the 7 same venues, the same arcade machines, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I went, I'm not going to do that anymore because my life is going to be 33,000 days long. I've got 33,000 gold coins. I am not going to spend them in only 7 places. This is a big world. I'm going to put them in a different machine every day. And so I started walking the earth and playing a different machine every single day of my life. And no 2 days of my life are alike now. I appreciate them fully. And I get to enjoy a full life, and it stopped abruptly. So be it. I don't care that I'm going to die or when I'm going to die. But while I'm here, damn it, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to love the people around me, and I'm going to get as many people to be aware that they're inside a universe that's inside a God that loves them. And yeah, sometimes I do that by selling cameras and vacuums, but not Viagra.
You walk the earth serving other people, and
I walk the earth serving God and other people.
is the priority important?
I don't think that he's never told me to do it differently. So I don't think I don't think so.
Okay. So when we talk about surrendering and like the plan is already written, the movie script, can you give a little bit more context on, okay, let's say I'm listening to this podcast with Ron and Kirk. What is he talking about when like the movie script is already written? What does that mean?
So Tucker Max actually helped me discover this, and I'll let him speak to his own faith and literature and how he looks at the world. But I think he's most noted and famous for writing this book series that revolve around I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell, which are a bunch of fraternity stories and crazy stories from his youth. He's not the person in that book anymore. I know him quite well. He's much older. He has a lovely family, and he owned for a long period of time Scribe Media, which is a publishing company. I think they most notably have done David Goggins books, but they do a lot of autobiographical books. But he had said to me a couple of years ago, we were sitting together, you know how the Bible begins. And I was a little shocked that he said that because I don't know him to be a big Bible reader, but I know him to be a big reader. I said, well, yeah, in the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. He said, let there be light. He's like, no. Begins with, before all of this was the Word, and I am the Word. Like, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. So that actually was an open loop that sat for a couple of years. And recently, him and I traveled to Central America together. And when on the way back, that open loop came open to me, and I looked it up, and I was like, it's in the book of John. So the New Testament is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. In that order is how we arrange it. And the first 3 gospels are the story of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and the story of Jesus and how he interacted with them, or the story that they saw from the same story told from their perspectives. But John starts the book from John the Baptist and the story of John the Baptist. And in the middle of this, he writes in the voice of God, and this line is inserted. And I think of it kind of like The Usual Suspects or Memento, that here's this great piece of the plot that's buried in the middle of the screenplay, the book. So if you think about what that means, that before any of this existed was the Word, it means God wrote this. He wrote these words prior to it happening. So he wrote the entire Bible, and we tend to look at the Bible as a historical record through the voices of a variety of characters as this is what happened. And when you realize God is so immense that he knew what happened so well, and he intimately knew each one of us, he was able to write the screenplay prior to it occurring. And God exists outside of time. So of course he could. He can go to anywhere in the timeline he wants. He be God. So he can go to the year 3,400, right? So if that's the case, and he knows us intimately, then he knows all of our follies. We still have free will, but he knows us so well, he knows the bad choices we're going to make. So he waited for Noah to show up and give him his sides. He waited for Jeremiah. He waited for Daniel. He waited for Isaiah. He waited for the psalmist. And he handed them that inspiration. Now, I know this to be true because I've written content. I've written movies. I wrote a movie about COVID in 1995. And the plot of COVID, and I registered it in the year 1999 or 2000 with the Writers Guild of America. There's no way I could have known that there was going to be a breakout of an infectious disease in Western China, rural China, that I saw it. And when I write a movie, I simply take dictation. And if you talk to people who write movies, and I mean, I've had this conversation with Kathleen Kennedy and Steven Spielberg, and they have the same conclusion. Movies are not written, they're given to us. Books are given to us. All these great works of art, including the Bible, are given to the people that perform and are the radio that broadcast them. You watch it, you write it, you're taking dictation. We call it the state of flow. So everything's already happened. You're not actually, the now doesn't exist, because the minute you think of the now is gone. It's then. This entire podcast thus far, is it occurring now or did it just occur? It just occurred. It's all in the past. There is no present. And when you look at the future, you're always wrong about how you predict the future. You can picture having a conversation with somebody you're going to have later today. It doesn't quite go exactly the way you thought it would. That's why we throw baseballs. We don't know how the pitch is going to go. We think we want it to do this, but it does that. Even the pitcher wants it to do this. He knows he's going to throw the curve, but he throws a wild ball. He wants to throw a fastball, but he throws it a little too low and it goes between the catcher's legs. He doesn't know he's going to do that. He saw the future different. He tried to map it out. Didn't quite get there. That's why we love athletes. That's why we love Michael Jordan, because he seems to be able to tell the future. If I zig, I zag, I stick my tongue out and I jump at the top of the key, boom. Tiger Woods sinks a 45-foot putt. It's his ability to predict and have it come out the way he wants is what's thrilling to us. That's magic. We're like, nobody can predict the future. Tiger Woods can predict a 65-foot putt once in a while. A hole in one. That's why a hole in one is magical. I'm trying to hit the ball in the hole. What's the most unpredictable thing that happens in golf that's so exciting? A freaking hole in one. It's the most unpredictable thing in golf. What is the point of golf? To hit the ball in the hole. But when it actually happens, we're astonished and we put it on national television. This guy actually hit the ball in the hole. And we give somebody a new Cadillac for it. Holy shit, he told the future and it happened. We don't know the future. We don't know the present. All we know is the past, because we're in a movie. We're like Judy Garland in The Wizard of Oz. Is Judy Garland in The Wizard of Oz? Every time I watch it. But she's currently interred in a cemetery in West Hollywood. She's not in The Wizard of Oz. But when I watch the movie, she doesn't seem to know that. You are in a movie of your life. What that should allow you to do, understanding that, is you should suddenly go, it turns out okay, because so far it's turned out okay every single day. I'm here. Great. Now go put a coin in a different slot for a change. Quit living the same 7 days over. Make a change in your life. Do something dramatic. Make a plot twist. Because it lowers your risk. Suddenly you're tolerant for more risk. If everything has always turned out okay, and apparently it's always turned out okay because you're still here, why don't you do something amazing and make a huge plot twist? Starting with helping somebody else. What's the most amazing thing you could do to help somebody else? When we do that, when we behave that way, that's how the news ends every night. They show us 28 minutes of terrible shit in the world. And then at the end, Look at this man push this kid out of the way from falling in the subway. Hey, you want to feel good? Here's a story about a kangaroo that saved a koala bear at the zoo. Like, it's a decision that some creature made that was to the benefit of some other creature. That's as amazing to us as a hole in one. So go shoot a hole in one.
So let's say I'm in a really bad spot right now, and the plot twist, I want it to come. I want it. It's already written. It should be coming, but how do I know when it should be coming? Or like, what's my timeline to do this plot twist? When is it my time to do it? Because like right now, I'm in the worst place in my life, and I have no idea how to leave it. I have no idea how to get out of here. So what's the first step to take to start this plot twist?
Quit lying to yourself. Quit lying to yourself. Because what's the lie you're telling yourself? I'm in the worst place in my life. It's never been worse than this. Shut up. That's not true. That's your excuse not to. It's not true. You're here. You're in the best place of your life right now because you have the decision and the power to do something about it. Decide to be grateful and joyful. I know people that are in prison right now that are joyful. They're reading and writing books. They're using the time wisely, and they're in prison. They've made a huge mistake in their life, and they've called the person and said, I made a huge mistake in my life. I'm so sorry. I'm in prison. When I get out of here, I'm going to make it right. Are you in prison? Probably not. Are you in the worst place of your life? Well, I guess if you're, in a clay pot or in a box 6 feet underground, you're in the worst place of your life, but you're not in your life at that point. You're out of the movie. So as long as you're in the movie, you're not in the worst place of your life. In fact, if you make a change, you'll look at this moment as being at the best place in your life because it's the thing that motivated you to make the change. How many people have you ever heard of that got divorced and went, this is the greatest thing that ever happened to me and my spouse? They thought they were in hell. And the minute they unlatched from each other, they both felt great. Best decision we ever made. We're actually friends now. I hear that all the time. I'm not encouraging anybody to get divorced, but I'm telling you, if you think that you're in the worst place of your life, you are choosing to see it that way. It's not true. It's a belief. You get to pick your beliefs. Doesn't mean you get to pick your circumstances always, but choose differently.
So how do you choose to use your coins differently?
Me, personally?
How would one use their coins differently every day?
It took me 4 months of surrendering to God on this piece of property, not doing a stitch of work, going out and him telling me, you're going to stop working and you're going to start listening to me. And that was almost 2 years ago. So you're going to get this piece of property in shape. And I'm like, I don't know anything about property. I don't know anything about land and cultivating land. I'm not an arborist. I said, well, you're about to be. Get a saw, get a wheelbarrow, and get some pruning shears and your gloves on. Get your ass out there into those trees. So I did. And I took the pruning shears. He'd say, cut that. I could feel him say, yeah, cut that. And I'd cut that. And I'd reach to cut something. No, cut that. I tell you to cut that. Trim that. Okay, don't trim that. Saw that. I got power tools. I'd like to use the power tools. This would be a lot easier. You're using the hand tools. You're not ready for power tools. This is about you obeying. So I did that for 4 months. And after 3 months, I got to use power tools. Once I got the land in shape, I didn't even know it was in shape. But the second it was done, all of the right foliage grew. There's plants here that the deer and the antelope eat for their own health that are things that you think are weeds. There are things that the birds and the bees and the butterflies love here that you and I would think are weeds. And now my backyard is like a Disney movie with deer and bunnies and antelope and dogs and ridiculous amounts, copious amounts of wildlife in a perfect setting. So great. Sit down. Now you can think. So I used that time to clear my brain, and then I was able to think. So now all I do is think. Sit around and think, and I have conversations like this. I have these kind of conversations with companies. And they change people's lives and they change people's companies. And it's not me. The things that I'm telling you are not me. They're recordings. I am a radio, and the voice that is coming out of my mouth is a broadcast. It is not Ron. It's just words coming through Ron based on the experiences I've had from the movie and the current experience I have and my availability to tune in and allow the voice to come through. No, I am not speaking for God. No, I am not God. No, he's not telling me what to say. I'm not hearing voices in my head as I speak to you. I am moved to tell you what I believe and what I feel. And I hope it moves you.
Amazing. So thank you so much, Ron. We'll wrap this up with, give us a little, any last words, and where can people find you if they want to learn more about who Ron Lynch is?
My last words are, I don't care what you think. I care that you think. If you want to learn more about me, you can simply Google Ron Lynch Marketing. If my voice has not completely annoyed you and turned you off, you can follow me on Facebook. I do a lot of writing there. Or you can follow me on Spotify, and I am an Alexa skill called Uncle Ron on both Spotify and Alexa, and you'll hear some podcasts. I'm going to start firing up some more podcasts. And I also do have a website, RonnyLynch.com, RonnyLynch.com, which I named from one of my first mentors in the grocery business. I was very tuned into the internet, and he very early on adopted that nickname for me at work before anybody was really on the internet. He called me RonnyLynch.com as a name. And we just thought that was funny. So I went and parked the URL years ago, and we just started using that. But you can see books that I've written there. You can actually download the screenplay that I was talking about COVID that was registered in 1999 or year 2000. And 4 or 5 books that I've written on different topics, from God to direct marketing to all kinds of stuff.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Ron.
Thank you.
And we'll talk soon.
All right. Be good. Thank you.
Bye-bye.